Welcome to Speakeasy Spirits. Recently, I did a video on affordable cocktails, comparing a $2.50 pre-made cocktail that I picked up at Walmart to a homemade daiquiri. And the daiquiri was better by far and still only cost $2.50 per serving. But while I was at Walmart, I found something else. These Bettergoods cocktail ingredients and mixers. I was intrigued by these because this is not your typical Rose's Grenadine with that bright orange color. This says it's made with pure cane sugar and is a hibiscus Grenadine. It's got that nice dark rich color, so I was wondering, can this be as good as my homemade Grenadine? And on the shelf next to it, I found Yuzu Mango Margarita Mix and this Cranberry Rosemary Punch. Since these are unusual flavors for a pre-made mixer and the ingredients list looks pretty legit, I'm going to try these and tell you if they're any good. I'm already familiar with the Bettergoods brand. It seems to be Walmart's higher end brand, much better quality than the great value stuff. Some of their frozen foods and their cookies have been really good, so there may be some hope for this store-bought Grenadine. To test if it's any good, we're going to use this in a fairly Grenadine heavy recipe, the Bacardi Cocktail. This is a pre-Prohibition recipe dating back to at least 1913, but it was also popular during Prohibition when Americans would travel to Havana, Cuba, where they could drink legally. Well, the name is the Bacardi Cocktail, and the Bacardi Company has sued people for making this recipe without Bacardi rum. Today, we're going to be using this Hamilton White Stash rum, lime juice, and Grenadine. This is basically a variation on a daiquiri where we've replaced the sugar with Grenadine. We're going to start with the lime, and we want 3/4 of an ounce of fresh squeezed lime juice. Three-quarters of an ounce is close to 1 full lime, depending on the size of your limes. To balance out the acidity of the lime, we're going to use 3/4 of an ounce of this Grenadine syrup. And last, 2 ounces of a good white rum. Now, in my opinion, this Hamilton White Stash rum is possibly one of the best you can use in a daiquiri. Let's give that a shake. And we will strain this into a coupe. So there is our Bacardi cocktail made with this Bettergoods hibiscus Grenadine. Now to compare, I'm going to whip up another one using my homemade Grenadine. My homemade Grenadine is a blend of pomegranate juice and sugar with some spices. I've got some clove, nutmeg, and cinnamon in there. Lately there's been some debate on the true historical formula of Grenadine, and maybe pre-Prohibition it had more spice and didn't even include pomegranate juice. I like to think my Grenadine combines those two recipes with the spices of that earlier recipe and the pomegranate of the more modern Grenadine. Here's the same recipe using my homemade Grenadine. And already there is a very visible difference. These used the exact same amount, 3/4 of an ounce of Grenadine, but this one lacks the color of my homemade. I'm not sure why, because when you compare them, they are very close in color. Let's start with my homemade Bacardi daiquiri. Before I say anything, let's try the Bettergoods Grenadine daiquiri. Despite the huge differences in color, they're not all that different. This one is a little more fruit forward, has slightly more of that pomegranate tanginess, but they are about equal on sweetness. My homemade Grenadine has a little more tartness from the pomegranate. That may be because I reduce some of my pomegranate juice into a syrup, then add straight pomegranate juice and the spices, so it's a little more concentrated. The Bacardi daiquiri made with the Bettergoods hibiscus Grenadine is pretty close. I would say the hibiscus is probably replicating some of those pomegranate flavors, adding a little bit of that tartness and a floral note. The lime definitely comes forward a little more in this one, where you get more of that pure pomegranate flavor over here, but they're both legitimately very good. If you need a Grenadine and you don't feel like taking the time to make a homemade one, this is not a bad choice. I would happily use this in any of my cocktails. Since the Grenadine was surprisingly good, let's try these other two mixes. First, I want to try this Cranberry Rosemary Punch. The instructions say to use 2 parts of this syrup with vodka, tequila, or sparkling wine, but we're going to mix it up a little bit and use some Beefeater gin. Now you can see this has never been opened. I have no idea what we're getting into here. This is going to be new to me, as well as probably to all of you. Since this uses a 2-to-1 ratio, we're going to make a fairly small cocktail here and go with just 1 ounce of our mix. And half an ounce of our Beefeater gin. And since we're just doing a taste test, we're going to pour that into one of my small tasting glasses. If you're making a full-size cocktail, I would use a coupe for this. And there you have the Cranberry Rosemary Punch. Now the ingredients on here do list lime juice as well, so this might be close to a cosmopolitan with a bit of rosemary. And yeah, this is along the lines of a cosmopolitan. It's a little less citrusy, but it definitely has that hint of rosemary. It's actually quite nice. Now, I don't mind the labor of making my own syrups, so I might make a rosemary-infused simple syrup and use it with some cranberry juice and some gin to make a cocktail very much like this. But if you don't want to make syrups at home, this is actually pretty good. I would recommend it. So far, these have both been a surprise, so let's move on to the Yuzu Mango Margarita. And once again, it's going to be a 2-to-1 ratio. So let's do the same. We'll use 1 ounce of mix. Let's make this one into a real margarita. We're going to use this Espolón Blanco tequila. And since it's a 2-to-1 ratio, we're going to use half an ounce of tequila. And again, since we're making a small one, we'll use one of my small tasting glasses. Now, I can't say that I'm impressed with that color. That does not scream mango to me. It seems to have picked up a lot of air in the shaking, so there may be some kind of frothing agent or some ingredient that foams up. Let's see how it tastes. It's a little sweeter than I like my margaritas, and I can't say I'm getting a lot of mango flavor. There's definitely fruitiness there, and it might be the yuzu more than the mango. If I was served these at a bar, out of the 3 of them, I would probably order this Bacardi daiquiri again, or this Cranberry Rosemary Punch, but I probably wouldn't get a second one of this margarita, but I also wouldn't hate it. If you're a huge fan of mango, this might be a little disappointing. Overall, it's all right, but I can't say that I would recommend picking up a bottle of this. I have to say, anytime I try these mixes or pre-mixed cocktails, I usually ready myself for disappointment, but these were surprisingly good. With the exception of the Mango Yuzu Margarita, I would definitely pick up this Grenadine again if I was in a rush and didn't want to make some at home, or pick this up maybe if I'm making a big batch of cocktails for a party and don't have a lot of time. And the Bacardi daiquiri being really simple, I really recommend if you like rum, try this one at home. It's a great cocktail whether you use homemade Grenadine or a good store-bought one. Just don't use the Rose's Grenadine, please. I hope you liked the video. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe. It would really help me out. Thanks a lot. I'll talk to you next time.